Who's running the Zoom meeting? Is that you out there, Eric Waters?
Yes, that is correct.
Would you do me a favor? Once we start, are you going to let our assistant Zoom meeting? Is that you out there, Eric Waters?
Yes, that is correct.
Would you do me a favor? Once we start, are you going to let our assistant Zoom meeting? Is that you out there, Eric Waters?
Stand by. Yes. So you should be able to turn your cameras on at this time.
Eric, the reason I asked, just a few minutes ago, I called up Chief Langlow, asked him to get some figures for me on the insurance. And he'll be participating as a participant, right?
That is correct.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
You bet. Mr. Chairman, if you're ready, I'll start the webinar. And then you can start the meeting at your convenience. Yes.
Hey, Nick, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, sir.
Before we start, do you have that figure at hand that you can give me?
Yeah, I can tell you. Let me pull it up here. I can tell you in 2020, we haven't paid our insurance premium in 2021 yet. We paid in October in one big lump sum. It looks like in 2020 we paid. The real close ballpark is we paid about $127,000 in premiums. I mean, that's getting you really close, sir.
No, that's the figure I was looking for. Thanks, Nick.
There might be a little bit more in there if we like added a vehicle late in the year, but that looks like that's going to get us really close.
That's for 2020.
Yep.
Thank you. Perfect.
All right, it is 5 p.m. I'll call the September 14th, 2021 Fire District 5 Commissioners meeting to order. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please. All right, since Tanya isn't here, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Any
Sorry about-
commissioner absence coming up? Seeing none. Any communications to the board?
Just the one thank you letter that was in the packets.
All right, it was from the Black family for our efforts of helping out in South Hill and Puyallup on August 11th. So thank you for the thank you card, and I'm glad our crews were able to help out. All right, I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 24th Commissioner meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. How about some voucher approvals?
Move that we approve the vouchers as outlined in the agenda, totaling between the vouchers and ACH transfers totaling $407,994.52.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. All right, any local 3390 report tonight? I'd heard that Jake had a presentation.
Yeah, he's got his hand raised.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Welcome, Jake. We got you. You got the floor.
Sorry for the vacation beard. See if I
Why are
can
you
sh-
apologizing for a beard?
Well, because firefighters don't usually have beards, so it's a vacation beard. Share my screen here. All right. Okay. So this is our 4 platoon presentation here. And I engineered this one for the community at large, as opposed to the commissioners or the chiefs or the membership. So this one is has a lot less detail in it, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, so what is the 4 platoon schedule? Well, the 4 platoon schedule, simply put, is just a scheduled change that divides the year in the workforce by 4 shifts and adds working days, as opposed to the current schedule we're on now, which divides the year by 3 and the workforce by 3 and adds days off. So it gets pretty close schedule-wise. It's a pretty common schedule throughout the fire departments in the area, and very common with larger places because they can increase staffing and it can decrease the work week simultaneously. So why is this scheduled change going to be a benefit to the community? Well, I'll show some of these in greater detail, but some of the bullet points are that it increases staffing, it increases our crew continuity and our training consistency. We're going to be able to reallocate some funds that I'll show you in a little bit from our acting numbers and our constant staffing overtime for officers. Also, the debit day complement, or the people who pay back those days, increases our potential to staff another apparatus or a fire station. And we're going to have an increase in hazmat and tech rescue personnel, about 3. And there's going to be an increase in hard barred officers. And a lot of the benefits to the membership are the same. We will have an increase in staffing, an increase in crew continuity. We're going to have a work week reduction by about 36 hours annually. There are going to be 8 promotions out of it. Like I said, an increase in hazmat and TRT positions. There's going to be a shift bid process outlined by the district, some transfer debit day language, and an increase in vacation time for 40-hour uniformed employees. So this is a little deeper dive into the staffing here. So again, dividing the workforce by 4, we have 100 total assigned to operations in 2022. That's 25 per shift, minus the vacation. And then remember, you're adding with the 4 platoon here. So that gives us a total of 24 and some change firefighters on a day. And in our current model, you'll see that it's the same number of people assigned to ops divided by 3, minus the Kelly slots and the vacation slots equals 23 and change. So there's about a firefighter difference there, increase with the 4 platoon staffing model. And this is what I think is the biggest benefit to the community here is the debit day complement. So currently we have a rotating Kelly day where a lieutenant is off almost every shift. And with this 4 platoon schedule, you have a lieutenant who's paying a shift back about 5 out of the 8 shifts. And when that lieutenant is paying back, that person is paying back with 2 other firefighters. And that's what the complement of our fire engines are. So when our vacation slots are not used up, that debit day complement will have the opportunity to staff another fire station, which I know is important to the commissioners. And so you can see the graph there on the bottom that kind of outlines how often our vacation slots are occupied. And you can see that about 25% or so of the year will have one or less people off on vacation. And so a quarter of the time stands to reason that we'll have an increased potential in staffing another apparatus or fire station. And then there is a little financial offset. With the promotions, we're going to have a surplus, in quotes, of lieutenants that will fill this negative officer staffing that we currently have and decrease the acting officer total by about half. And that was, we came up with that in committee. So, and we voted on it as a local. And it was pretty clear there, 98 yes votes, 7 no votes, and 6 abstentions. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Jake, just one quick question.
Yeah.
Can your PowerPoint presentation, can it get where we can be sent it so we can have it?
Absolutely. I can send it to you or Tanya or whomever you'd like.
Okay, I would like that. Thank you so much. It's a good presentation and I'd like to have that information available.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Tom, go ahead.
I've got a comment. Would you like for me to wait until we get to the old business? Would that be probably more proper?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a question for Jake right now,
No,
let's address that. But
No.
if we want to discuss it, we'll do it under old business.
Okay, no, I have no question for Jake.
All right,
Chairman.
then Jake, just send that to Tanya and she'll distribute it to the board, so we'll have it, okay?
Chairman
will.
Wolsey,
Yes, Tanya.
I see that Carl is in the audience and he's raising his hand with a question.
All right. If we can get Carl in here to
He should be
ask a
in.
question.
Carl,
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, and I don't know whether you'd want me to wait until the allotted time towards the end of the meeting concerning
Well,
this, or now.
Carl, do you have a question for Jake or do you have a question for the commissioners?
I do have a question for Jake.
Okay, you can do the one for Jake here.
Super. I reviewed the 713 presentation that you made to the board, and I see there are some changes from that. For instance, in July, you showed assigned ops 102 personnel, and on this one you show 100. Also, the personnel per shift reduced, and on duty reduced somewhat. I'm just, and on the financial impact of this, in July 13, there was an indication that this would show a reduction of $516,000. And then it also showed that there would be an increase of $190,000. And somehow, maybe it's new math, I don't understand, but somehow that equated to a net of minus 70. So minus 516 and plus 190 equals minus 70. So my question is, this bottom line, are there any personnel added with the 4th platoon? And is in fact it a $70,000 reduction to the budget by going to the 4th platoon?
Okay, so if I understand your question correctly, you're kind of asking what the overall financial impact is and if there's an increase of cost of 70,000. Is that your question?
No, your slide showed a decrease of 70.
Right. So in committee, we decided that the 4 platoon model will have a positive impact on our budget. In other words, that the promotion of more officers would solve the current problem of quite a bit of officer overtime and officer acting. And so when we looked at the amount of hours that there was for acting in 2020, there was 12,000 hours of acting. So we predicted that the Kelly days in our current system, that they cause about half of the acting in our department. And what was kind of hard, another thing that was hard to figure out, and we couldn't really come up with incredibly specific numbers, was for the constant overtime for lieutenants. And the committee decided that overall, that the acting hours would be reduced by 6,000 and there would be a reduction in lieutenant overtime hours. And so those numbers were ballparks. But overall, the committee decided that it would be positive for moving to the 4 platoon. I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Okay, but then in general, I think you would have this. The going to 4th platoon does not add any personnel.
Oh, no.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Carl. Do any of the other commissioners have any questions for Jake at this time? All right, is there anybody else in the audience with their hand raised? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you very much, Jake, for coming in and presenting that to everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
All right, it takes us to Chief's report.
Great, thank you. I want to thank Jake. He's on vacation, as you can tell with his beard, and I appreciate him zooming in on his vacation and helping us with this. For Chief report, I'm going to start with Chief Langlow. He has some updates on our new hires.
Good evening. Pretty quick update, but just wanted to keep you in the loop with where we're at with entry-level hiring. We're currently right in the middle this week. We did last week, and then we're finishing up this week. We're right in the middle of panel interviews with entry-level firefighters, and then we have 3 lateral paramedic candidates that are going to be interviewing with our EMS division tomorrow. That's going to wrap up on Friday, and then we have chiefs interviews, which will take place in October, early to mid-October, with Chief Doan and Chief Meyer, and ultimately that will result in hopefully some conditional job offers that we'll be extending to folks looking to bring them on early into 2022. Haven't nailed down the exact date yet, based on we're just not far enough into the budget process yet. But looking to hire them as early as the first part of January in 2022, and a combination of both laterals and entry level firefighters and paramedics. Interviews are going well. The group, the panelists report that they believe we've got good candidates. And then based on some our early background checking and work that we do in HR, we would agree from that standpoint that we feel like we've got some good viable candidates. So we should be encouraged with that, and we'll continue that process moving forward to identify who and how many we're going to hire. I know that how many we're going to hire is a $1 million question that everybody wants answered, including myself. And we're getting closer as we work on the budget process. I would anticipate having some better information in the first part of October, once we work through the M&O process of our budget and identify how much new monies we're going to have to be able to hire new folks. And I'll give you that report when I can. Chief Doan, that's what I had.
Great, thank you. Chief, before you take off, we do, a number we do know is we have some replacements, right? So we do know there's a minimum of, was it 4 or 5, Chief?
Yeah, we do know that we're going to hire at least 6 to make it basically net neutral. So with the movement of our firefighter Abe Edmondson went to our prevention position, and then we know we're going to have him and plus a couple of other vacant positions that we have. We know we're going to have at least 6 to be net neutral, and then we'll identify any new positions on top of that.
And then any retirements that we might hear about.
Yep, and they folks have till the end of October, or excuse me, the end of September to identify if they're going to retire. So we're kind of getting into that sweet spot of the year where we'll have a better idea of how many vacant positions we have, and then also with the budget, how many new positions when those compete with everything else in the budget process.
Thanks, Chief. Next up, I got Chief Meyer to give us some 2 or 3 things on deployment. And Chief Meyer, thanks.
Yeah, good evening. Just got about 2 or 3 things for the board tonight. Well, first of all, just wanted to say thank you very much for everybody that participated in the memorial, the 9/11 memorial this last Saturday. I think it was a great, well attended, not only by our members, but also well attended by the public. And I heard great interaction, great reviews. And I just want to give a shout out to Division Chief Jason Black, who spearheaded this effort and got everybody together. So that was greatly appreciated. So thank you to Jason Black on that front. Wildland deployments has been a busy season in the news up and down the West Coast, just kind of a repeat of last year. Currently, all of our personnel are back home. One of the things that has happened this year with COVID and some of our people being out, we've had to restrict some of our people going out because we needed to staff our apparatus in our department here. So that's been limited there. But however, right now, all of our employees are back and currently no one is deployed right now. And then the last thing I had for you is also too with what Nick talked about with hiring and upcoming hiring. We have our current recruit class that there's actually 10 of them, 7 entry level and then 3 laterals. This week, the 3 laterals have reported to shift. So that's been a great milestone in everybody's career. So if you see them, please congratulate them that they've gone through their training process. Now they're on shift. Now they're going to be finishing out their probation. So those 3 are starting on shift this week. Also this week, the 7 entry level remaining, they have started their EMT training. So their EMT class is being taught and led by TCC in our medical division. So a lot of good training going on there. You also see we'll have some outside students that are in that class also to help round out our numbers concerning that EMT class. That EMT class training should go through October, and those 7 entry-level firefighters will hit shift sometime in November. So that's my report, unless there's any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. All right. I will jump in with my report. We are working on our capital facilities plan. It's continuing to evolve as we move forward. We did have a meeting, was that yesterday? Yesterday with the committee of commissioners. In that, we decided to do a work session with the entire, with all the commissioners. I asked Commissioner Wilsey, and we are going to schedule one for all of us in the next couple of weeks. You should receive a doodle poll, and we'll try to get that scheduled in the next couple of weeks to go over where we're at so far and get some direction and some input from all the commissioners. We're continuing to work with Liz Loomis to define our message and our plan moving forward. She's got lots of feedback from all of us and is putting together our first rough draft of where we're going and how we're going to communicate. And she's doing a great job. Next thing is the standard of cover. We're continuing to move on that. We've sent out the community survey. So I noticed a lot of you have shared it. I've emailed it out to all the mayor and the council, other community leaders that I know. Anybody on here right now, there's a link on our website. We'd like to hear from you. And it's a survey on the standard of cover. So we'll keep getting that out. One of the things with the standard of cover, it's moving along nicely. I'm excited to bring that to you in the next month or so. But one of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention and talk about is we don't fit into the normal box like many departments. We're not a gridded city, right? We have a downtown, but even our downtown isn't a gridded city. And we're trying to figure out, because we don't fit neatly into the box that many cities do or many fire districts do. What's our response demand zones, right? Do we have the city? Do we use the UGA? Are we rural? Or, we fit in all those boxes in a different way. And so we are struggling with that a little bit, and we may even have to create some of our own zones that's a little bit unique. But another thing that we're seeing, and this is no surprise, is that we're struggling with some data. Again, we knew this going into it. We had our old Zoll data, then we went to ESO since January 1, and even that isn't the cleanest. So we are struggling a little bit with that. So our first standard of cover may not be perfect, but that's okay. We're defining and we're seeing and we're finding some things that we can improve on, and some training we can improve on how we do our data and our data analytics. So it's coming along nice. We're going to have a good product, but at the same time, we are already identifying things that we can improve on, and that's a good thing. When it comes to the Assistant Chief of Administration, we're working through that process. I put it out to the department if anybody was interested to contact me. I had one person contact me. We've met a couple of times. We talked about my expectations, and that person has decided not to apply. There's still time if somebody wants to let me know, and we can have that conversation. We're not closing that door, but we are starting to look outside now and how we're going to fill that position. So I'm working through that, and should have a more of an update at the next meeting for you. We did meet as an IT consortium last week. We did interviews, and we have a new IT director, and we've made an offer. It's an internal candidate named Micah Ralston. So we're excited to have some new leadership in the IT consortium, and we're excited to start moving forward and get some things done and some things accomplished. I'm really excited for Micah. He did a great job, and we're excited to move forward. On the mandatory vaccine front, last count, this is rough, around 17 in the department that were vaccinated. We've had 4 people ask for exemptions, religious exemptions. We're going through each one. I think we've approved 3 of those 4 so far, and we're still evaluating. It was either 1 or 2. I could be off by 1 there, but it is past time to get your first dose unless you're getting the J&J. So I don't have any numbers on those 17 that have decided to get vaccinated or are going to put in for an exemption or are going to take a different option. So we'll know that though in the next few weeks. I'm doing interviews for lieutenant this week, so that's exciting, and we'll be able to have some promotions by the end of the year. And the last thing to let you know about is I met with both of our chaplains last week, Mark Sutko and Bob Grimes, and both of them have announced to me that they're going to retire. So we're looking forward to celebrating them and all the time they put in to our department. They've done such a great job. And now we're evaluating what we need to do moving forward, how we replace them and what we do there. So I'm saddened by it, but also happy for both of them. They've done such a great job and been such a great asset. That's all I have for updates, Mr. Chairman, unless there's any questions for me on any of that.
All right, anybody have any questions for the chief?
Just one quick favor to ask,
Yep.
Chief. As we identify how many officers that we potentially could be losing due to the COVID mandate, could you just keep us in that loop? Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, as numbers start coming available. Part of the problem, we don't know if they've got their first vaccination. They're not telling us. They could have got the first, all of them could have got the first vaccination, and we just don't know until we get their card, which isn't due for a few weeks. So, but soon as we get numbers, yes.
I just as soon as you have the real-time data, I'd appreciate being in the loop. That's all.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, anybody else? All right, we'll move on to standing committee reports.
Mr. Chairman, the insurance committee, Commissioner Nelson and myself met with Fournier Insurance last Wednesday, and we were given some figures that, frankly, I shared with you and the chief, a 16% increase. Well, I called their main office this morning or yesterday morning and set up a meeting with Chief Johnson, Chief Langlow, and Danette to go over it. And they miraculously, I guess, changed their figures. And instead of a 16% increase over 2020, it's 6.8% increase, which is doable. I understand where the figures, the last figure, and these figures could change slightly, but the figures that Bryce and I were given last week, frankly, we should have never received, because once I got my calculator out and saw 16%, I thought, whoa, what's going on here? So the bottom line is it's going to be 6.8%, maybe a little bit higher. I doubt if it's going to be any lower. So that amounts to, let's see here, about an $8,000 a year increase, 127 and change and 135 and change. So the 6.8 to me is reasonable. I can understand that.
And that's just our share, correct? Of the consortium.
Correct. Yeah. No, yeah, that's just Gig Harbor. That's not West and that's not Central.
All right, and were are West and Central getting the same percentage of increase, or is it a little different for them? Do you know?
Well, actually, I'm glad you bring that up. Central's getting about a 0.5% increase. Now, we discussed that this morning at our Zoom meeting with Fournier, and I'm hoping this district does the same. They brought in a third party to evaluate all their facilities. And in doing that, and I mean, the insurance company, ESIP, had to sign off and agree to the figures. But in doing that, they saved a lot of money. So it might be something that District 5 considers in the next year. There's no big hurry on it, but that's the reason theirs was a 0.5%. West was about 13%. I don't know if they're just going to, I'm not sure. I haven't talked to anybody from West.
And that was just the third-party consultant that Central hired and went through their facilities?
Correct. I believe Chief Johnson's going to check with his counterpart in Central Pierce to find out who that third party is, because they were acceptable to the insurance company, not to Fournier, but to ESIP. Whatever figures and depreciation and all that, it sounded fairly involved, but it was acceptable to the insurance carrier. I thought if we go with that route, it would be best to go with that person or persons.
All right. Well, thank you.
Alex, all the credit here goes to Tom. I was able to participate briefly in the first meeting over the lunch hour, and then work commitments kept me, I had to bail off. And then today, Tom took care of this. So he's being gracious and crediting me, but really Tom deserves all the credit in making this happen in terms of this work. So Tom, good job.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Any other standing committee reports?
The only thing, Alex, Joe and I had a meeting about capital facilities, but Chief mentioned that, and we're going to have that broader meeting with all 5 of us to kind of go over it, because it's important for us to all, I think, have an understanding of what our options are, what everything looks like, all that.
All right. Thank you. All right. That takes us to Chairman's report. I really don't have too much tonight, other than I just want to give my appreciation to the department for the 9/11 ceremony that was had here on Saturday. Very good job. There was some very nice coverage on King 5. A citizen spoke, and I think it was probably one of the best, interviews and news stories I saw over all the 9/11 memorials. So kudos. It was good to see Dale Togstad kind of showcased in that too, and kind of given a little bit of credit for all the work that he did to put that memorial together. So another reminder to, thank Dale for all his years of service and, all his efforts in getting that here and building it. So that's all I've got. All right, that takes us to old business. The 24-hour shift reorganization for Platoon. I know Tom had a question here first, so go ahead, Tom.
I really don't have a question. I have a comment. So if you want me to hold off, I'll be glad to.
Yeah, just hold off. I'm curious. Carl, I believe, had a question for us. Is Carl making his way? There we go. Go ahead, Carl.
I asked the questions I wanted to. I got the answers I wanted. I've got a comment that on the regular comment time, if you want me to come there, I've got another observation but that's later. Nothing more on the 4th platoon.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Any other questions or anything that need to come before the board considering 4th platoon? All right, we'll move to comments unless is there a hand raised? I don't see any on my list.
I think it's just Carl still has his up, but
Carl still has
he just hasn't taken it down yet.
Yep. All right, go ahead, Tom, with your comment then.
You know what? I think the floor, first of all, I'm going to preface this by saying I plan on voting yes on the 4th platoon. But what I want to explain is the reason I'm going to vote on that. When I was chairman last year, more than once, President Flick looked out for not only his membership. If you're the head of a union, it's easy to look out for your membership. But President Flick looked out for the district and his membership. And in such a way that very, very few people knew a couple of instances when I was chairman. It was very much under the radar. He's been absolutely forthcoming whenever I've talked to him about this 4th platoon privately and asked him some pointed questions. And he was more than gracious enough to answer all of them. In my opinion, Local 3390 is very, very lucky to have him at this time as their president. And for that reason, I make a motion that we approve the 4 platoon.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any more discussion or any more comments from the commissioners? Seeing nothing from Joe. Kevin, do you have anything? Nope. I'll just also reiterate Tom's comment. I do have a little bit of experience on what the shift and the work schedule is and should look like, in the fire service. And, when this first came to us, there's lots of different ways to skin this cat. And I'll say this and echo what Tom said is that the proposal that 3390 brought forward and Jake specifically was very fair. Didn't overshoot. Didn't try to, take too much, and it's a great benefit to this community. And I hope that it is the benefit that the members of 3390 are looking for as well. So with that, it also does set us up for the future here, because if you haven't noticed, Gig Harbor is growing and expanding, and the calls for service are increasing. So to think that we're going to be able to run a fire department and emergency medical aid service with the existing resources would be foolish to think so. And this 4th platoon will set us up in a much better light to expand and increase our services. So
Alex,
With that,
can I add one thing as well?
go ahead, Bryce.
For me, I think what's really important and what the community needs to know is in these presentations, Jake presented kind of historical data of when we've had when there will be sufficient debitors to have 3 people, including an officer, which would allow us to staff another station. And historically, that's been more than 50 days a year. So we're talking about almost 2 months a year where we would potentially be able to staff another station in the district, which I think even, while we're potentially saving some amount of money because of the reduction in overtime, or at least shifting the money from overtime to different parts of the budget. So to me, that's a really critical component of this, is the potential to staff an additional station for that time period, because every day that we have another station open is a reduction in response time somewhere in the district.
Yep, and that very good point, and thank you for bringing that up as well. And that's really where the benefit comes to the district and to the citizens is you're going to have more firefighters on duty at certain times, and hopefully times where needed, it's going to really make a difference. So, all right, any more comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. All right. Any other old business that needs to come before the board tonight? Seeing none, we'll move to new business, 2022 budget planning and timeline. Chief Langlow.
Okay, good evening again. I think it's probably safe to say that this of our on the timeline of the budget meetings we have coming up, this will be the shortest report that I have. Talking just really specifically about the timeline. Once we get into the next few meetings you'll see on the calendar, we'll get into more specifics on the budget itself. But as you can see in our timeline, we've been officially, I suppose, by the timeline, working on the budget since the end of June. The reality is that the budget's an ongoing process, and we've been working on it for the entire year. And so when we finish this budget, we'll start another one, and always kind of be on that track. But we called for budget input on July 23rd, 2021. Budget requests were due July 9th. July 31st, we had division budgets that were due. And then the period between the 1st of August and the end of August, our administrative team and division heads reviewed budget requests, reviewed the budget from the year previous to make sure that we had a good handle on any increases to ongoing projects, any increases to ongoing items like fuel and tires and keeping the lights on in the fire station. And so we took that month to kind of review everything, put it together. September 14th brings us to today, where we published this timeline in the board packet. Our team up here is meeting at least once a week to kind of work on continuing to refine the budget as a group. And then really everybody, all the assistant chiefs, and then Katrina Lawrence are working on it on a daily basis, refining numbers and making sure we're on track and in a good spot to make sure we meet our deadlines. So we anticipate having a first draft hearing on September 28th. Second draft hearing will be October 12th. Budget hearing, revenue hearing, and final draft October 26th. And then by the period between October 27th and November 22nd, we have established for final revisions. If we get direction from the Board of Commissioners, we need to make tweaks or changes. We'll do that during that period. And then November 23rd, we anticipate coming to the board to get approval of the 2022 budget. And then as you see there, the week of November 24th, the budget is due to the county assessor's office. And that'll take us right through the end of the budget season and reporting it to the county's office and getting approval. And that leaves us a little bit of time if there's any tweaks that need to be made at the county level. So that, in a nutshell, is the timeline. I'd be happy to answer any questions specific to the timeline and answer any questions specific to the budget if you have them. Although on September 28th, I think you'll get the first draft with much more context and detail that'll have the budget down at a more granular level. But globally, if you have questions, I can certainly try to answer those.
I don't have a question. I have more of a, I guess, request, and you may already be doing this. Historically, we've had sort of a list of items that have been requested, and then at the top is what we're able to do. In the middle is kind of the things that would be nice to do, and then at the bottom is the things that are kind of not necessarily needs but are wants. Could we have? I really like seeing that because it kind of details what our needs are and what we're able to pay for within our tax base. And you may already be doing this, but I could you, if you aren't, could you put that into the draft just so we can have an understanding what the asks were?
Sure.
Even if they're not funded.
Yeah, sure.
Also with that, Mr. Chairman, at a high level, I asked the department, I said, this is our first budget. We are working on a lot of stuff right now. It's not a time for a lot of new stuff. We have high level about 1.5 million in increase. The COLA in the contract is about 1.3 of that. So there's not a lot of money. And we've had about $3.5 million worth of requests, even though I asked not to put in anything new. So that at a high level is where we're at. So we're going through those. So there won't be a lot of new stuff is what I'm trying to say.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Is there any other new business needs to come before the board here tonight? All right. Seeing and hearing none, we'll move to open public comment. Please state your name for the record and you'll have 3 minutes. I believe Carl is coming in. There he is. You have the floor, sir.
Thanks, sir. I've got a couple comments and then a request. As a member of the community, oh, by the way, I'm Carl Kreitzer, I live in Kick Harbor. As a member of the community, I want to add my kudos to the memorial service on Saturday. I asked Lois that what first word came to her mind, and she said moving. And then she also said that she thought it was appropriate at the time, and I can't think of better words to express. I think it was very well done, and congratulations on that. It was really great. So something did pop up here. I looked at my notes back on the 4th platoon, but it's the term that's used both in benefits to the community and benefits to membership is the phrase is increase in staffing. I think to most people, increase in staffing means adding people to the department, new hires. So I would suggest that there be a better definition or explanation as to what you mean with as increase in staffing. Because I specifically asked Jake, and he said that it is not increasing the number of personnel in the district. So just an observation from community member. And then as goes with the budget, I would hope, I think we have in times past, have the detail that you receive online prior to the meeting attached to the proposed agenda, so that some of us dummies that don't have anything else to do can review it prior to the meeting. That's my request. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carl. Yeah, and we'll work on a better phrase for the increase in staffing. It's just the balance of decrease of Kelly days and an increase of debit days, and with that you end up with another person at work, pretty much every day, which it's a little bit of magic, but it does make sense in the end. So anyway, that is the one thing this is, was accomplished without any increase in staffing. So and kudos again to 3390 for coming up with the plan, and that made sense. So
yeah, maybe more people are available, is what it is. But it's not you're right, Carl. Thank you for that. Yeah, we're not increasing anybody. More people are available to be at work, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, any other public comments tonight? All right, I'm not seeing any hands raised in the panelists or in the attendee section, so we will move on to good of the order. Anything for good of the order tonight? All right, seeing none. Any special interest upcoming events? It's a quiet crowd here tonight, huh? Nothing going on? All right. Okay, with that, we will adjourn this meeting. Next regular meeting will be Tuesday, September 28th at 5 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.